Hey everybody, Dan here, stockmarketmentor.com, and Google just reported, actually about an hour ago or so. I just finished my live strategy session with a bunch of people, so now I'm back doing this freebie here. Okay, look, let's see how this thing traded when they reported earnings. Okay, this is a 5-minute chart, so you can see what happened. The stock actually had closed down a bit. That's what it looked like. Like it had closed down, what, 1%, almost 2% on the day. And then here comes after hours, big whoosh down. Not much change though from the close. But if you look at this intraday, or I should say after market, 5-minute chart here, you'll see this thing had a big move up, great capex spending and all that, or capex, however you want to say it. If you're a musician, you'd say capo. But so this had a big move up, ran up even more, and now what are we getting? We're getting kind of a dive back down to a negative number. For a while, this thing was even positive on the day. It actually was even for a cup of coffee higher than yesterday's gap open. So this was a really, really strong move. But if you look at it from top to bottom, this has been an almost 12% move one way or another. That's a huge, massive volatile move in a day. And so if we look at the volume chart here, this is just massive volume, like huge volume. So this is the way I look at this for tomorrow. I wouldn't want to buy this stock tomorrow. There's no way. I'm not saying it's going to go down. I have no idea whether it's going to. I just know this. There is a lot of resistance above where this stock is right now. And this is kind of how I tend, this is how I tend to look at things. I'll say, okay, where's the stock? Where has it been? What does it need to do to get to where I'm going to be able to make money? And I put this red box here. This is all the pain. Like this is here, we can put a roof on it like this. We can put a door on it even if we want to. Okay. Here. Okay. That's the door right there. This is Helga's house of pain here. You don't want to be in here. So just let this thing settle out. The uptrend is definitely intact. There's no question about that. The uptrend is intact. Okay. Back to where I was. So anyway, the point is that you want to just let this thing settle out for a bit. There's plenty of resistance overhead. This I would say is a pretty solid bottom right here. We'll put it at 308, something like that. So this is a pretty solid low right here. If this comes back and revisits this, frankly, I'd kind of be surprised. I don't think that's going to happen. My suspicion is that this is just going to continue. This is just going to continue to run higher. But as a trade, I think you can do better. I think you can wait and let this thing solidify a little bit. But as an investment, there's no reason to be getting rid of this stock. In fact, again, if you're looking at this as an investment as opposed to a trade, look at the blue line here. That's the 50-day moving average. Since it tagged it back here in June, like the first part of summer last year, it has never hit this level since. And so we've had a heck of a run here. What I'm saying is, for an investment, this is an opportunity for you to be buying literally right here, right now. For a trade, I think you got to wait, let this thing settle out a little bit, let all the profit taking run its course, and then we'll move higher again. Get it? Capiche? That's about all I got for you guys. I'll see you next time.